Close encounters with Bigfoot are rare, but those who claim to have experienced them describe moments of sheer terror, overwhelming awe, and even bizarre, unexplained phenomena. From spine-chilling growls to intelligent, almost human-like interactions, these encounters leave people questioning everything they thought they knew. But what really happens when you're in Bigfoot's presence? Let's break it down.
That's a giant. Oh my God. It's all seats. You know what I mean? Like, you guys, I think so.
Desert Sasquatch is a YouTube channel famous for its relentless search for Bigfoot, uncovering eerie evidence deep in the wilderness. From massive footprints in the snow to distant screams, unexplainable chatter, and mysterious structures, the journey never ceases to deliver chilling discoveries.
I'm gonna stay the night, and I'm gonna do some filming at night. I've got all this stuff I need to use that I don't use.
Each expedition takes viewers through abandoned mines, hidden caves, and untouched forests, where the presence of something unknown lingers just beyond reach. This latest investigation pushes even further into the unknown, revealing structures that defy logic and suggest an intelligence at work. As the camera moves through the rugged terrain, something unusual stands out.
That rock area, a dang gifting zone, but it's just too damn far.
An odd structure made of branches and debris, carefully arranged as if it was built with a purpose. It's not a random pile of broken limbs. Instead, it has the shape of a shelter, something intentionally crafted. The more the investigator examines it, the more unsettling it becomes.
But even for me, it's creepy. Especially this time of day. Once it starts to get evening.
The broken ends of the branches appear fresh, as if this site has been recently used. The area itself is eerily silent, except for the occasional rustling in the distance. Could this be a Sasquatch nesting site, or is it something else entirely? See for yourself as the investigator carefully navigates around the strange formation, trying to determine if it was made by human hands or by something unknown.
See, I think that was probably some kind of a structure at one point. I don't know, maybe not.
Further into the investigation, the evidence continues to build. Another discovery sends chills down the investigator's spine. A massive pile of sticks and logs, deliberately arranged in what looks like a nest or even a hidden entrance.
We need to look and see if that was like that before. I don't remember that. Okay, but it may be.
The precision of the placement suggests intelligence, something far beyond natural forces. This isn't just a random gathering of debris. It looks like a constructed space. If it was built as a hiding spot, then for whom or what? The eerie thought lingers as the camera captures every detail. There are no signs of human activity in the area. No logical reason for this pile to exist in such a remote location. The investigator can feel the weight of something watching, as if he has intruded on a space not meant to be discovered. The forest, once quiet, now feels alive with an unseen presence. Witness the chilling discovery as he examines the site, trying to determine its origin.
Found this, what looks like a damn beaver den. But all the sticks are broken.
Moving deeper into the woods, the investigator reflects on how much his perception has changed over the years. Once a skeptic, he now finds himself unable to ignore the mounting evidence.
I think it was the start of one, but was never finished. You know, I'm not sure. I just know I'm sure they need some kind of cover.
Winters in this region are brutal, making it nearly impossible to track anything for months at a time. But as the seasons shift, revealing the ground beneath, subtle signs begin to emerge. It's not just about footprints or tree structures anymore, it's about patterns. The more he uncovers, the harder it becomes to dismiss the idea that something intelligent is out here, actively avoiding detection.
I mean deep. You get lost in here, you freeze to death.
Tracks disappear just before they should become clear. Structures appear in places no human would go. And strange sounds echo through the mountains, always just out of reach. What once seemed like folklore now feels like reality. Experience his thoughts as he pieces together years of findings and questions what else might be hidden in the vast wilderness.
So I think some of the areas closest to him have been scoured, but you can scour an area all you want, but you're still going to miss things.
Each exploration brings new discoveries, new questions, and new reasons to push forward. The structures, the movements, the eerie silence. There is something in these woods, something that has remained a mystery for centuries. But with every investigation, that mystery becomes just a little clearer. What will be found next? The answer lies ahead, waiting to be uncovered.
Hey fam, ready for nightmares? Check out Knock Knock for the scariest, most bone-chilling encounters caught on camera. Link in the description. If you dare.
The Freeman footage had long been a subject of debate, yet somehow it hadn't been explored in depth here before. Among the countless pieces of supposed Sasquatch evidence, this one stood out, not just because of what it showed, but because of the man who filmed it. Captured in 1994 by Paul Freeman, a U.S. Forest Service patrolman, the footage had a certain weight to it, something that set it apart from the usual shaky, grainy glimpses of dark figures in the woods. And yet, its reputation teetered between being one of the most compelling pieces of evidence and just another blob squatch. But was that really fair? The footage began with an unsteady camera, shifting between dense trees and rough terrain. And then, there it was. A dark, hulking figure moved through the forest, its shape almost unnatural, broad, heavy, with a strange fluidity to its motion. It wasn't just a man in a suit, at least not in any ordinary sense. It had bulk, a mass that seemed to shift with each step, as if its entire body was one singular unit, rather than a collection of moving parts. It was easy to dismiss at first glance, but the longer one stared, the more unsettling it became.
Oh, there he goes.
Freeman himself had always been a curious figure. He wasn't just some random hiker with a camcorder. He had experience tracking wildlife in the forests of Washington, specifically in the Mill Creek watershed east of Walla Walla. He knew what belonged in these woods and what didn't. And in the years leading up to the footage, he had made claims, bold ones, about finding tracks, following trails, and even encountering these creatures firsthand. To some, this made him credible. To others, it made him suspicious. The footage, however, spoke for itself. When stabilized, it became even more striking. The creature moved deliberately, as if aware of being watched. There was no frantic scrambling, no attempt to run. It simply strode forward with the kind of presence that suggested confidence rather than fear. It looked unnatural, but not in the way a man in a costume might. Something about it felt off.
Doesn't it? This was filmed by Paul Freeman in 1994. It's often considered the pinnacle of blob squatchery.
Freeman had described the creature's legs as disproportionately small compared to its body. And while the footage didn't provide a perfect view, there was a sense that this wasn't a typical human frame. The shape was difficult to define, shifting slightly with the camera's motion, and yet it remained imposing. Scrubbing through the footage only made it clearer. This wasn't just an ordinary movement pattern. There was something distinct about it, something that set it apart.
Obviously, Bigfoot have arms and legs and a head and stuff, so please don't misunderstand me, but I think you know what I mean.
Something that set it apart. Skepticism surrounded the footage, as it always did with sightings like this. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, an expert in primate locomotion, was one of the few professionals who took a serious look at the evidence. Initially, he didn't trust what he was seeing. It was too convenient, too well aligned with everything he had studied.
There's about 6 minutes of footage before it makes its appearance. He also claimed that the trackway he was filming wasn't particularly good.
Bigfoot evidence was never this clear. It was supposed to be frustratingly vague, always just beyond reach. And yet, here it was. Freeman had spent 6 minutes filming tracks before the creature appeared. He even admitted that the trackway itself wasn't particularly impressive. Stranger still, he had used old film instead of fresh tape, which could have improved the footage's quality. Was that suspicious? Maybe. But sometimes things just happened that way.
Quality would be higher had it been new. And you could say that's sus, but it's also life. The videographer, Paul Freeman, was born in 1943 and passed away in 2003.
What caught Meldrum's attention most weren't just the footprints Freeman had collected over the years, but the details within them. Marks so intricate they seemed impossible to fake. Dermal ridges, subtle scarring, even signs of wear that remained consistent across multiple tracks. One footprint in particular stood out. As the drizzle fell over the print, something unexpected happened. The skin texture, barely visible, began to fade before Meldrum's eyes. It was as if the moisture was erasing a real imprint rather than exposing an artificial one. That was difficult to ignore.
Scarring on the dermals that remained consistent over years, so much so that individuals could be rather easily identified.
Even more perplexing was a partial footprint. Only the front half pressed into the ground, the heel lifted mid-stride. If it were made by a rigid fake foot, the entire sole would have made contact. Instead, it moved as a real foot would, shifting weight from front to back, bending in a way that suggested something alive had left it behind. Then there was the knuckle print.
Curled over protruding stones, while in others, the toes pushed the stones deeper into the ground. The same stamp can't do both.
Freeman had once shown Meldrum what he believed was one of the most detailed toe impressions he had ever seen. But when Meldrum looked at it, his reaction was immediate. That wasn't a foot. It was a fist. A knuckle print, belonging to something that had pressed its hand into the ground with force. If this was a hoax, it was an oddly detailed one. Why go through the trouble of fabricating an anatomical feature that even the hoaxer himself didn't recognize for what it was?
The find that Dr. Meldrum found that day was a partial print, and he said it would simply have been impossible to stamp without the other half making contact.
This was where skepticism became tangled with curiosity. If Freeman had faked this, he had done so in a way that suggested either an absurd level of knowledge or complete coincidence. And if he hadn't faked it, then what exactly were people looking at? The inevitable question always surfaced: where was the body? It was the argument that skeptics clung to the most. If these creatures existed, why hadn't anyone found definitive remains? The answer, however, wasn't as simple as people assumed. Tracking wasn't easy. In fact, it was an ancient skill that few had truly mastered. Animals didn't just leave their remains out in the open. In the remote wilderness of Washington state, nature reclaimed everything. A body left to the elements would vanish faster than people realized, broken down by scavengers, soil, and time itself.
One such example of this conundrum was when Freeman showed Meldrum a cast of what he said were some of the best toes he'd ever cataloged. And Meldrum said, "No, that's a fist. That's knuckle."
The absence of a body wasn't proof of absence. It was just an inconvenience, one that made belief harder but not impossible. It was easy to dismiss, just as it was easy to get lost in the details that made it compelling. Tracking was difficult, requiring skill, patience, and time, 3 things most people didn't have. It was one thing to speculate from a distance, but how many people could truly afford to drop everything and march into the mountains for weeks on end? Washington's forests weren't forgiving. The terrain itself fought against you. Searching for definitive proof wasn't just about belief, it was about endurance.
Eventually he'd come to it, or something to that effect, though usually the verbiage is a bit more on the rude side. Well, 1, tracking is hard.
And that was the question at the heart of the Freeman footage. Was it real? Or was it just another footnote in the long, frustrating search for the unknown? It was easy to dismiss. just as it was easy to get lost in the details that made it compelling. The answer, as always, hovered somewhere in the space between doubt and wonder. But for those who had seen it, the raw, unfiltered movement of that dark figure in the trees, it was difficult to shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, they were looking at something they weren't meant to see.
Witnesses, and a plethora of pieces of evidence that span too much time and distance to ignore. But the fossils aren't there.
Colorado. Bigfoot is a YouTube channel dedicated to uncovering the mysteries of the unseen world. With over 73.9K subscribers and more than 1.7K videos, the channel dives deep into the search for Bigfoot, documenting compelling evidence that raises questions about what truly exists in the remote wilderness. The man behind the channel has spent years exploring the most secluded regions, capturing footage that challenges conventional understanding. This is one of those journeys, an encounter that stands out among all the rest.
Oh my God. Wait for this. Well, this confirms everything, John. I mean, this is just unbelievable.
Deep within the vast forests of Colorado, the air was thick with anticipation.
Until this happens, I gotta get a video that no one else in the world can do, okay? And what did I just do?
The camera lens focused, capturing something rare. Something that, according to him, no one else had ever managed to document quite like this. "Oh my God, wait for this. This confirms everything," he murmured, his voice filled with restrained excitement. He knew that in this moment he might have recorded something irrefutable. For years he had been on this quest, pushing himself to get the one video that no one else could. And now, it seemed, he had it.
Look at that. Oh my God, you guys. I have like goosebumps inside my body just for myself of seeing that.
As he zoomed in, the weight of the moment settled in. "Look at that," he whispered.
That's a giant. Oh my God. It's all seats. You know what I mean? Like, you guys, I think so.
I have goosebumps just seeing this myself. The realization hit. This was no ordinary footage. It was something different.
People take it for granted what you're seeing. Nobody else in the world is going to show you that to you. Is it because it's me? No, but it's where I live.
Something that couldn't be dismissed easily. He acknowledged that many might take these sightings for granted, but he didn't. He knew the rarity of what he had captured. Nobody else in the world is going to show you this. Because it's me. Because it's where I live. This is what I do.
I see it. You guys, look, they are...
Moving deeper into the forest, he sensed an unseen presence. One that had deliberately led him away before. "They don't want me seeing this," he muttered, recalling past experiences where he had felt an inexplicable force guiding him away.
Here's the thing. They didn't bring me over here. They don't want me seeing this.
I did.
I see how I missed it. I must see this stuff you cannot see. I've been as close as real close.
This time, however, he had caught something. The footage didn't rely on whistling sounds or vague shapes. It was clear. The silence was even more telling. He and his companion had their food out, expecting movement.
Must have went up. I got super zapped. They brought me away from this. They weren't whistling. We had the Jays come in. They just came in, looked at us, and left. Not one sound.
But what they got was something different. A silent observation. Whatever was out there had made its presence known without making a single sound.
In need of just a little bit more of a push. I'm not trying. What is that? What do I gain by... So anyway, look at this.
Examining an ancient trident-shaped tree structure, he speculated on its origins. If the wood on that trident was tested, it would be impossible to accurately date. It's been here for centuries, maybe even longer.
Trident was tested. I mean, it's impossible to really date. You have to take all the conditions. Remember, they rarely see water here. I mean, this thing is hundreds and hundreds. I would say on the it can't be any younger than 500.
The dry conditions preserved it in a way that defied typical decay. This tree was part of their world. They make these structures when they're little, and they last. His words carried a certainty built on years of experience.
If I say 1,000, it seems long, but obviously it's been moved since. But this tree has been...
A belief that the patterns and structures found in these forests weren't just random, they were intentional.
Oh, they're just popping in right there. Look, congregation, they all hang out here.
Pausing, he introduced John, a seasoned observer from the UK who had spent years studying similar phenomena. Most of you know John. He doesn't seek attention. He just documents what he finds. John, a railroad supervisor.
So let me just introduce John for those of you that do not know. Most of you do. John's famous in Energy Overload. He's
had encountered inexplicable occurrences in different parts of the world, yet nothing quite compared to what they were seeing now.
Doesn't seek attention, doesn't put it on YouTube, nothing. So most of the people watching know who John is, but if you don't, he's from the UK.
He's one of the hardest workers I know, he added, emphasizing John's dedication to understanding.
To there, I think. But I never saw any of that stuff. Did you see the way that looked?
Yeah.
What lay beyond the ordinary, what they discovered next, was unlike anything before. It's like an elevator, just moving. The way the environment shifted before their eyes was unsettling. It wasn't just about footprints or structures.
Exactly, mate. It's like an elevator, a porter.
No, I meant that. The trident.
There was a pattern to the way things moved. He struggled to put it into words, but the footage spoke for itself. Insane. Just walk, he muttered, still processing what he was witnessing.
Watch this. Without over-editing, trying to zoom and play it, just when I replay this, just watch right there. You can watch him. He closes his eyes.
Zooming in on a specific point, he noticed movement. Watch this. He closes his eyes, he pointed out.
I'm so sorry. So if you watch, you can see he'll blink or close his eyes. There's also clearly one right.
It wasn't just one figure, there were two. There's another one, right on the other side of the tree. You can see him too. He enhanced the view just enough to make it clear. I knew it.
On the other side of the tree too, you can see as well. I'll just do a quick zoom so you can tell. But yeah, there's two of them right there. I knew, so...
He's the one hitting me with the big-time energy, he said, referring to the overwhelming sensation he often experienced in these encounters. This wasn't just about seeing something, it was about feeling it.
In the mud or something. I've filmed, 5,000 impressions if they're actually real footprints. Bone.
He had filmed thousands of impressions over the years, but what they found that day was different.
Oh. Smiley tit.
Look at these footprints, he said, crouching down to examine them. These weren't ordinary tracks. The depth, the shape, the sheer size.
You're not by any chance zooming on a tree, are you?
Zooming on them, mate, over there.
It all pointed to something large, something powerful. These are real footprints.
Because we're leaving, they're all starting to come on now. They're waiting for us to go.
Bone structure, weight distribution. You can see it all right here.
But I really wasn't kidding. What's wrong with you? Try doing this. Try being by yourself.
Standing alone, he spoke to the camera, addressing those who doubted the existence of what he was documenting. Try doing this. Try standing in front of something unknown every day of your life, filming it, knowing it's watching you just as much as you're watching it.
Standing in front of aliens, filming them every single day of your life. Sometimes I know he's over there invisible, so I'm going to show him to you, right? But I do it.
His voice carried the weight of experience, the countless hours spent in isolation, searching for answers that most people never even thought to ask.
Don't have to come back, but look. Can you see that thing?
What?
That mushroom. It's like crazy looking.
He turned his attention to something peculiar. That mushroom. Look at it. It's different, like nothing I've ever seen before. The forest was filled with anomalies, subtle but significant.
That thing looks... Are you serious? Who's your good boy?
These details, seemingly minor on their own, built a bigger picture. Are you serious? That thing is strange. Did it die? These are worth money. They're rare.
You don't have to see it. It's right there in front of you. He's here. The whole ground moved underneath me.
Then something happened. The ground beneath him shifted, not in a dramatic way, but just enough to make his heart race. The whole ground moved underneath me, he said. Not like an earthquake. It was different.
But not like a stomp. Like it was like an accident. Yes, look at this. This is the only place in the world, like, I think that where you can find their petrified structures, like.
He scanned the area, knowing that whatever was causing this wasn't visible, at least not in a way that human eyes could easily perceive. As the day came to an end, he reflected on what had just transpired. Listen to me. This is legit. His voice was steady, but the emotion was evident.
I have more worlds, real worlds of Sasquatch than anyone in the world.
Look at that. You see it, right? He turned the camera towards the evidence, letting the footage speak for itself. This is what we came for. And now, you've seen it too. The search continues. The unseen world remains just beyond reach, waiting for those willing to step into the unknown.
Sorry, you little guy. Hey, listen to me. Listen to me.
Got legit. It's a legit one.
That's legit, family.
Yeah. Look at that.
Salish Sasquatch is a YouTube channel known for its remarkable collection of Sasquatch evidence. Run by Jonathan and Sarah Brown, they live on an Indian reservation in Washington state, where they document encounters, tribal stories, and unexplained activity from their own property. Among their most compelling pieces of evidence is a thermal video capturing what they believe to be a Sasquatch. The footage has gained widespread attention, even being analyzed by experts and skeptics alike. One of the biggest debates surrounding the footage is whether the figure in the thermal video is a Sasquatch, or something more mundane, like a cow. Some skeptics argue that a cow wouldn't just walk casually across the screen if a Sasquatch were nearby. However, others point out that the cow in the footage also walks directly in front of Ben and John without any hesitation, suggesting it is familiar with both the humans and whatever else might be in the area.
You know, you saw in that video, the shoulders and the head. After all of my analysis, I've never been able to come up with any alternative explanation. Other than that, it's a Sasquatch.
The cow's indifference raises an interesting question. If the creature in the background were another animal, would the cow react differently? It's clear that whatever is in the footage, it isn't disturbing the natural behavior of the other animals. To further examine the footage, the Browns invited Phil Pauling, an experienced investigator, to review the evidence. Phil takes a methodical approach, breaking down the details of the footage with an investigator's mindset. His analysis confirms that the object in question emits body heat, ruling out inanimate objects or illusions. The shape appears broad at the shoulders, resembling the upper half of a large humanoid figure rather than any known animal. He also takes into account environmental factors, such as the surrounding forest, the distance from the camera, and the possible obstructions. His thorough breakdown aims to answer the biggest question: if this isn't a Sasquatch, then what else could it be?
And there was cows behind us right here. And the thing about that night, the rancher was moving some cows out.
Every piece of the puzzle points toward an upright, heat-emitting figure of significant size. See for yourself as the analysis takes a deeper dive into this mystery.
Many believe that this shows the head, shoulders, and chest area of a large Bigfoot.
Accurately determining the size of the figure is another crucial part of this investigation. Researcher David Ellis attempts a size comparison by positioning himself in the same spot where the footage was captured. However, the initial measurements don't align with the original scene, forcing the team to recalibrate their approach. After making adjustments, they find that the figure in the footage stands approximately 7 feet tall and is 4 feet wide at the shoulders. Additional comparisons reveal that even when standing at a higher elevation for scale, a human subject appears much smaller than the figure in the thermal footage. The difference in size and mass is unmistakable, reinforcing the idea that this is no ordinary creature. As measurements continue, more compelling details emerge about the scale of what was captured that night.
My hope is to examine and make an attempt to explain the findings. I think the first thing would be to get a better understanding as to the lay of the land and the scene.
To eliminate the possibility that the figure is simply a trick of the landscape or an illusion, the team reconstructs the scene using precise mapping techniques. Their findings indicate that the figure is not on top of the ridge, but just beyond it, standing on a narrow footpath that runs parallel to the upper ridge. This placement aligns with the location of discovered footprints, adding another layer of evidence to support the idea that something massive was standing there that night. The thermal footage is then overlaid with daytime photos taken from the same location, confirming that the shape seen in the footage is much larger than an average human. Despite attempts to explain the sighting through alternative theories, the evidence consistently points back to a living, heat-emitting figure of significant size. The reconstruction reveals just how massive this figure truly is.
This is the estimated angle of the cow trail, showing a Bigfoot in the location where the tracks were found and cast.
One of the most common criticisms of the footage is that the figure doesn't move. However, Bigfoot researcher Tony stabilizes the footage to show otherwise. When slowed down and analyzed, subtle swaying movements become apparent, shifts in weight, slight rocking motions, and even what appears to be controlled breathing.
But the location of the thermal image is a different story. A short drop to a narrow path, and then a sweeping steep drop beyond the path to the pasture that lays about 40 feet below.
These micro-movements further separate the figure from a stationary object or an animal lying still. The way it shifts side to side is consistent with what has been reported in other Sasquatch encounters, where witnesses describe large, humanoid creatures rocking slightly while observing their surroundings. The stabilization provides a clearer view of the movements that might be missed at first glance. Look closely and judge for yourself.
Just go along slowly. There's a bit of a sort of a sway there, left to right, back and forth.
Despite multiple expert reviews, no definitive explanation has been found that fully debunks the claim that this is a Sasquatch. From the heat signature to the sheer size and anatomical details, every aspect of the footage remains a fascinating mystery. Whether a believer or a skeptic, this case presents compelling evidence that deserves serious consideration. Could this be one of the clearest thermal captures of a Sasquatch ever recorded? Or is there still an unknown explanation waiting to be uncovered? Let us know what you think in the comments. A search for Sasquatch in the Rocky Mountains and Pacific Northwest. Bigfoot is on the verge of discovery. Subscribe for weekly updates of Bigfoot sightings across these regions. In the Yukon, a chilling Bigfoot encounter was reported by Ernie McGregor, a 30-year resident and prospector.
Ernie McGregor, a 30-year resident of the Yukon, liked to prospect in gold mine with his family.
In 2009, Ernie and his wife Kim were on a gold prospecting trip in a remote area northeast of Haines Junction.
On one prospecting trip with his wife in 2009 in a remote area northeast of Haines Junction,
they parked their truck and ATVs and settled into their tent for the night.
On the night of the encounter around 10 p.m., they retired to the tent for the night.
Around 10 p.m., they retired for the night. Being summertime, it remained light until late. Around 1 a.m., they were awakened by a loud hooting sound followed by a deep, resonant bellow. The noise was alarmingly close, only about 100 yards from their tent. These eerie vocalizations continued for hours, coming from two different directions, suggesting they were surrounded. Suddenly, the sounds grew closer.
The sound was alarmingly close, around 100 yards from their tent. This lasted off and on for several hours,
and they began to hear popping or clapping noises. Fearful, Ernie exited the tent and fired warning shots into the darkness. The noises stopped, and whatever was out there retreated.
Ernie got out of the tent and fired some warning shots trying to scare them away, and it did.
Convinced they had been terrorized by a pair of Sasquatch, the couple hiked back to their truck the next day. Along the way, Ernie saw a large black figure moving from tree to tree, seemingly keeping pace with them. In 2015, Ernie returned to the area alone for a multi-day prospecting trip. When he returned to camp one evening, he found it completely destroyed. A powerful stench filled the air, a mix of wet dog, rotting flesh, and something unrecognizable.
In 2015, when Ernie was out prospecting alone for 4 or 5 days, on one of the days when he returned to camp, it was completely destroyed.
Shaken, Ernie quickly packed his belongings onto his ATV and left. These encounters permanently changed his life. He no longer enjoys camping as he once did, and is hyper-aware of every sound in the wilderness. The creature that stared him down looked anything but friendly.
These two encounters have permanently changed Ernie's life. He doesn't enjoy camping like he used to, and when he's out there, he wakes up.
Russell shares a terrifying encounter from 1992, when his parents lived in a remote cottage a mile outside Mayo, Yukon.
In 1992, my father and mother were very poor. We lived in a cottage a mile away from the small city of Mayo in Yukon, Canada.
His father worked tirelessly to save money, so they could eventually move to a better place. Their only protection was their loyal German shepherd, Barney. One fateful night,
it was evening and was snowstorming. My mom was in the living room with me sleeping in her arms.
A monstrous roar echoed outside their home, waking Russell's mother and making baby Russell cry. His mother asked his father what it was, but he remained silent, grabbing a shotgun and instructing her to hide in the wardrobe with their baby. Through the window, he saw a massive creature staring directly at their home. But there wasn't just one. 2 more figures lurked nearby, watching. One was jet black like the first, but the third was even larger, determined to confront whatever was outside.
Human-like tracks. He measured one to be 53 to 55 centimeters.
Russell's father stepped out, shotgun in hand. He discovered 3 distinct sets of human-like tracks, one measuring 53 to 55 centimeters, another 60 centimeters, and the largest over 70 centimeters. Following the tracks in the direction Barney had run, he made a devastating discovery. Barney's lifeless body, his head crushed. Judging by the damage, these creatures had easily overpowered the large German shepherd. Heartbroken, Russell's father buried Barney in their yard.
2 weeks after this event, my dad got enough money for us to move to the city of Whitehorse and buy a house there. We moved and lived there to this day.
2 weeks later, he had saved enough money to move his family to Whitehorse, far from the terror they had endured. Later, Russell's father reflected on what he had seen. The largest creature, covered in white fur, appeared old and slightly hunchbacked. He believed it might have been injured or suffering from age-related issues, as its tracks suggested it had been dragging one of its legs.
The big one may have had an old age-related physical disability or was injured and so was dragging its leg.
The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RMSO, speculated that this could have been a sign of an aging Sasquatch with physical limitations. Regardless, the encounter left a permanent mark on Russell's family. These Yukon Bigfoot encounters continue to fuel speculation and belief in the existence of Sasquatch. Have you ever had a Bigfoot encounter or know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Keep watching. We're going to keep on squatching. Sasquatch Omega is a YouTube channel dedicated to investigating the existence of Sasquatch across various parts of the United States documenting compelling photographic and video evidence. With years of experience tracking elusive creatures deep in the wilderness, the channel presents first-hand encounters with strange structures, massive footprints, and vocalizations that defy explanation. Each investigation brings unexpected discoveries, and this particular night proves to be no exception. As the sun sets, the forest becomes alive with an eerie energy. The deeper they venture, the more signs emerge.
There's also shelters on this side because there's a mound and then a groove and then another mound right behind it. It's perfect. It's like military. It's precision.
Something is out there, and it's closer than ever before. The first signs of activity come in the form of tree bends and structures scattered throughout the dense woodland. Some branches appear unnaturally twisted and bent, as if shaped by hands rather than the forces of nature. These formations have been reported in Sasquatch encounters worldwide.
And it's flat.
Yeah, maybe.
It's all right there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well,
Whatever.
That's exactly what you need to do. You need to look for big, flat, and squish areas.
Believed to serve as markers, shelters, or even territorial warnings. As the team moves cautiously through the area, they stumble upon a fresh set of tracks embedded in the soft dirt. The footprints are large, with deep impressions that reveal distinct toe markings.
He left an incredible footprint. And where is it? There's another one.
Unlike typical human footprints, these have an evident midfoot break, a characteristic often linked to Sasquatch locomotion. The prints continue beyond a nearby fence, suggesting something massive stepped over it with ease. This discovery alone raises the stakes. Whatever made these tracks is close, and it might still be watching. Look closely as the camera zooms in.
Here we are. Here it is. Here it is. Wait,
oh my God.
Is this the one that we already did?
No, we didn't come out this way.
This way.
Yeah, the other one was going...
No, come up.
Revealing the fine details of the tracks that defy explanation. As the investigation progresses, the evidence becomes even more compelling. Another track, measuring an astonishing 17 inches, is found pressed deeply into the ground. A human foot is placed beside it for scale, and the difference is staggering. The depth of the impression suggests incredible weight, far beyond that of any known animal in the area. The toes are splayed, showing clear separation.
It's covered with these leans. You could pull those leans back and walk right in there. Okay, now keep going. I'll look for prints too.
And another faint track appears nearby, supporting the idea that multiple individuals could be traveling together. Could this be a family unit moving through the woods under the cover of darkness? The thought alone is chilling. As the flashlight sweeps across the ground, the clearest footprint of the night is revealed, showcasing undeniable details that send a wave of excitement through the team. The contours of the toes, the curve of the foot, and the immense size of the print make it hard to dismiss as anything but genuine. Don't miss this moment as the footprint comes into view, offering one of the clearest pieces of evidence ever recorded.
Oh yeah.
Let me show you how to get into it.
Wow.
This whole trail is prints.
But the discoveries don't end there. As the team moves deeper into the woods, something even more puzzling comes into view. An enormous wall-like structure standing in the middle of nowhere. Thick branches and logs are jammed together, interwoven in a way that seems almost deliberate. It's as if someone, or something, constructed it with a purpose. The complexity of the structure rules out natural causes. Unlike debris scattered by floods or windstorms, these logs are wedged tightly together.
I guarantee you probably never would have come here, right? No one comes here. And so it's very strategic. We can go back inside if you want. Because this is a doorway.
Forming a barrier that stretches several feet high. This is no accident. The thought of Sasquatch being capable of building such formations is both fascinating and unsettling.
If I'm a Sasquatch, back up and see how big this is. There's still plenty of space.
If they are creating structures like this, what else are they capable of? The camera captures every detail, highlighting the sheer scale of the construction and the eerie precision with which it was made. Witness this incredible structure for yourself and decide, could this be the work of an intelligent, unseen presence lurking in the forest?
Big area. Obviously something really big could sit right in there. Let me get in there.
All right.
As the night unfolds, the tension builds. Every crack of a branch, every distant vocalization, and every sign of movement in the shadows adds to the growing sense of unease. With footprints, structures, and strange noises surrounding them, the team is left with more questions than answers. What else is watching from the darkness? Could Sasquatch be closer than anyone realizes? Each piece of evidence uncovered pushes the mystery further, challenging everything we know about the wild and the creatures that might inhabit it. The search for answers continues, and with each step deeper into the unknown, the legend of Sasquatch becomes harder to deny. Far from the hum of civilization, a man, his wife, and their daughter had built a cabin with their own hands. It was more than just a home. It was a watchtower in the heart of the unknown, a place where mystery and reality blurred. They weren't just living in the woods, they were searching. For years, stories of giant, elusive creatures had echoed through the mountains. The locals whispered about the shadows that moved between the trees, the guttural sounds carried by the wind, the enormous footprints that led to nowhere. The family had heard the tales, but they wanted proof.
I'm about to give you a detailed look at all the Bigfoot evidence that humans have discovered to date.
One evening, as the fire crackled and the night stretched into a thick, consuming blackness, the man adjusted his camera. "I'm about to show you everything we've gathered so far," he said. The evidence wasn't just hearsay. Footprints, DNA, eyewitness reports. These weren't just random encounters. They were threads in a pattern stretching back centuries. "This isn't just a local legend," his wife murmured, scanning through old reports. "It's everywhere, from the Pacific Northwest to the Great Lakes, from the Appalachian Mountains to the forests of Canada." The stories were eerily similar. Seasoned hunters, law enforcement, even military personnel, people trained to observe, not to imagine, had all claimed to see something.
Plus a whole lot more that's probably being kept from us. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, the wild man of the woods.
One of the most chilling encounters came from a hunter in British Columbia. He had watched, frozen in place, as something impossibly tall, covered in thick brown hair, stepped effortlessly through the trees.
These names have echoed across cultures and continents for centuries, describing a creature that science has yet to classify, but thousands of witnesses.
"Its stride was too fluid," the hunter had said, "like it wasn't even touching the ground." The man exhaled, staring at the footage on his screen. "It's like they know how to stay hidden," he muttered.
With most sightings occurring in the Pacific Northwest, the Appalachian Mountains, and the Great Lakes region.
Then there were the sounds. Ron Moorhead, a researcher, had once captured eerie, guttural chatter deep in the Sierra Nevada wilderness.
These reports aren't just from casual hikers or over-enthusiastic campers either. They include stories from seasoned hunters, police officers.
Experts had analyzed the recordings. They didn't match any known language. "We not only saw movement," Moorhead had said, "but we heard something talking."
Some of the most intriguing evidence for Bigfoot comes in the form of audio recording, capturing eerie sounds that experts have struggled to explain.
But what truly unsettled the family were the indigenous stories. For generations, tribes had spoken of a being that wasn't just an animal, but a force of nature, a guardian, a predator, or something in between.
Was walking on two legs, taller than any human I've ever seen, covered in dark brown hair. Its stride was effortless.
The night outside the cabin felt even darker. The wind rustled the trees, but it wasn't just the wind.
Almost fluid, and it turned to look at me for just a moment before vanishing into the tree line. End quote.
"You hear that?" the man's wife whispered. His daughter leaned closer to the window, her voice barely above a breath. "It's out there, isn't it?" He didn't answer.
For many indigenous communities, Sasquatch is more than just a creature. It is a symbol of the wild, untamed spirit of the land.
The deeper they went into the research, the more unnerving the evidence became. Footprints, some over 20 inches long, found in places no human could have walked.
The prints measured 13 inches in length and showed a stride pattern too long for a human.
Videos, figures moving through the trees just out of reach of clarity. The infamous Patterson-Gimlin film, still unexplained after decades of scrutiny. And then, the recordings.
Their reputations. These individuals consistently describe similar creatures and behaviors. The sheer volume and consistency of these reports.
Somewhere in the mountains, a deep guttural growl had been captured. It was low, powerful, unlike anything science could classify. Experts had studied the vocal range, the frequencies. Whatever had made that sound had lungs far larger than a human's. "It's not a bear," the man muttered. "It's not anything we know."
Well, the Paul Freeman footage presents another compelling encounter with what appears to be a large, hairy figure.
The most controversial story came from a hunter named Smeja, who claimed to have shot a Sasquatch.
A hunter who claimed to have recovered flesh and hair from a Sasquatch he encountered in the Sierra Nevada mountains.
He described it as massive, covered in dark brown hair, with human-like hands and feet, but larger. Panic had taken over, and he had left the body behind.
Smeja described the creature he shot as, quote, massive, covered in dark brown hair, with hands and feet like a man.
"I didn't know what I was looking at," he had said. "I just knew I had to leave." But what if he wasn't lying? There was also the Minnesota Iceman, a supposed Bigfoot-like creature frozen in ice, displayed in the 1960s.
It was a supposed Bigfoot-like creature, frozen in ice, displayed in the 1960s by carnival owner Frank Hansen.
Respected scientists had examined it, but before further research could be conducted, it mysteriously disappeared, replaced with a replica.
Both respected scientists examined the frozen creature before it was replaced with a replica. Dr. Uvelmans wrote, quote,
"Had someone hidden the truth?" The man stared out into the darkness beyond the cabin. For years he had searched for the truth. Now the truth was staring back. Maybe Bigfoot was just a myth. Maybe it was just folklore, just stories passed down through generations. Or maybe it was standing right outside their door. "So, what do you think?" the man asked the camera.
If you want to show me extra support and contribute to future projects, I'll leave a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description. Thanks for watching.
Legend or reality? The answers were out there, waiting. Adirondacks is a YouTube channel famous for deep wilderness investigations, capturing strange and unexplainable encounters in the vast, untamed forests of the Adirondacks. The man behind the camera, Jonathan Rafferty, has spent years tracking what he believes to be an intelligent, elusive species. One that leaves behind footprints, vocalizations, and structures that defy simple explanations. Tonight's expedition is set deep in the wilderness, where he hopes to document more evidence of the creatures he suspects are watching from the shadows. The night is filled with tension as he presses forward, carefully navigating through snow-covered terrain. The goal is simple: leave offerings of apples and bananas in hopes of enticing something to interact. With a fresh snowfall blanketing the forest, any movement will leave tracks, making this the perfect opportunity to gather new evidence.
You know, I hate to have my head up and everything, because really, honestly, like, they don't want to let light shine right in their eyeballs.
The deeper he moves into the wilderness, the more the landscape begins to feel untouched, as if no human has set foot there for a long time. It's the kind of place where something could be watching, something that doesn't want to be seen. The camera catches every step, every crunch of snow underfoot, and every flicker of movement in the dense trees surrounding him. Then, something unusual happens. A sound pierces through the night, echoing across the forest.
What a welcome treat that is. I mean, yeah, sure, they can find their own food. You know, cold, dead rabbit.
It's a bark, but not just any bark. At first, it resembles the sound of a house dog, but the location makes no sense. The noise is coming from the exact area where he was previously whistled at, raising immediate suspicion. Coyotes don't bark like this, and it doesn't fit the usual calls of wild animals in the region. Could this be something else? Something mimicking a dog? The thought alone is chilling.
I'm gonna have to free up a hand because I got a dog out here. I don't want to be fighting no dogs.
The camera captures the eerie stillness of the forest, the sound of the barking echoing through the trees, creating an atmosphere thick with uncertainty. Watch closely as the sound grows louder, creating a moment that will leave you questioning what truly roams these woods. As he moves forward, the situation becomes even more unsettling. There are fresh tracks in the snow, tracks that resemble those of a dog, yet something about them seems off. He follows them carefully, every step bringing him closer to the unknown. A decision has to be made. If this is truly a lost dog, he doesn't want to harm it. But if it's something else, something imitating the sound of a dog, what then?
They don't bark like that.
The air is heavy with anticipation, every shadow now holding the possibility of something lurking just beyond the reach of the flashlight. Strange things happen in the woods, and tonight is no exception. The tension is undeniable as the moment unfolds on camera. See for yourself as the tracks lead deeper into the wilderness, raising more questions than answers. The night takes an even stranger turn when he begins using vocalizations, hooting and calling out in an attempt to elicit a response. The wilderness has its own language, and sometimes calling out can stir the unknown. The reaction is unexpected. A powerful scream erupts from another mountaintop, far off in the distance. The sheer force of the sound sends a wave of adrenaline through the moment, as if something out there is responding. Is this a Sasquatch answering back? Or is it something else entirely?
Somebody's beagle running rabbits? Maybe that's what they're doing. Somebody's up here hunting rabbit. These dang beagle.
Whatever it is, it's large, distant, but undeniably real. The forest suddenly feels more alive, as if the night has shifted in an unexplainable way. Experience this moment as the scream echoes through the mountains, a sound that challenges everything we think we know about the deep wilderness. The expedition continues, with the realization that something is out here, moving in the same darkness. Whether it's a dog, a coyote, or something far more elusive, the night has delivered more than expected. The search isn't over, it's only just beginning. Every sound, every track, and every moment adds to the growing mystery of what truly resides in these remote regions. The evidence is mounting, and with each passing night, the line between legend and reality becomes thinner. What will be found next? Only time and the wilderness will tell. So, what do you think? Are these encounters proof that Bigfoot is real, or just the result of overactive imaginations? Have you or someone you know ever experienced something unexplainable in the woods? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your theories. And if you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe don't wander too deep into the forest alone.